So I made a video of this wood shop some time ago. It was fairly popular, but there's something I really didn't explain very well. So what I didn't explain was this wood shop is for me. It's for my particular desires, aspirations, requirements, and I don't recommend it for anyone else. No one else is probably as crazy as I am. This video is my advice as to how you can design your wood shop for you. So let's say you sit down at a pub next to an architect and you ask him or her how you should design your wood shop. And of course you offer to buy him a beer. If that person was me, this is exactly what I would tell you. The first thing I would suggest is don't just copy someone else's work. For instance, don't just copy my wood shop because it's not for anyone else or anywhere else. I intentionally focused on the joy of being in the wood shop and seeing it from our house. But those conditions would be different for you. You should focus on what's most important for you. You should focus on your ambitions and requirements. If you do, you'll find that your design is particular to what you want and where you live. In our industrialized and highly standardized world, architecture is one of the last things that's actually unique or can be unique. Buildings that aspire to be architecture become part of the place and the people who created them, in my opinion. But you might be thinking, well, I don't want architecture, I just need a wood shop. I don't want the Taj Mahal. But if part of your ambition is to enjoy your time and the space you create, I think you want architecture. A building does not have to be the Taj Mahal to provide joy. If a building provides joy, in my view, it's architecture, even if it's a shed. If when you really think about it, joy is not a part of your ambition to build a wood shop or anything else, I'm not the right architect for you. It'd be better for us to drink our beers and talk about the weather. But if you did want a building to enjoy, and say you hired me to design it with you, these are the steps I would take. And you can just follow these steps to design it yourself. It won't be easy, but this is how you can do it. Step one is to prepare. Step two is to design. Step three is to refine, and step four is to repeat. So step one, prepare. I think this is the most overlooked part of design process. It's so often undervalued and rushed through, but this is the time to dig deep and ask yourself why. Why do you want to build this building? I would pretend that a young child is asking you why. You know how a young child asks a question and you give them an answer and they say why, and you give them another answer and they say why and why. I think your answers become more abrupt and more from the heart. What's all the pragmatic and culturally conditioned answers have sort of been worn away, and a certain amount of frustration may just blurt out something like, I just want to make something good. And that's the core. That understanding of what you're really trying to do is critical. Write that down as an ambition. You will probably find other, more defined ambitions. Like, for instance, I want to make something good out of plywood. This leads to a requirement. Plywood is 4 foot by 8 foot. And moving it through your wood shop becomes an important requirement. It was a critical requirement for my wood shop. That's why these two doors open and I can push a 4 by 8 sheet of plywood through the table saw and onto the bench. So write that down as a requirement. You should also prepare yourself by investigating your particular situation. Is the land you want to build on wet or dry? Is it sloped or flat? Are there trees or not? How does the sun shine on it? How does the wind blow across it? What happens when it rains? And there are many more things. But you should investigate these things in the abstract. You should make notes and diagrams. People so often jump directly into trying to solve the problems that they see. I think you should just document them, because if you don't jump directly into solving them, you may find other solutions as you go. This process of investigation, of really trying to understand what you're trying to achieve, can be tedious. It's not something that we often do, but it's critical. You skip this step at your own peril. Imagine someone who wants a new house. They download the floor plan from the internet. They hire a contractor, the contractor starts building, and halfway through construction, when they've actually started thinking about their new house, and they see this wonderful view, and they say, oh, we want to open up the walls to take advantage of this view. Well, re-engineering the structure when a building is under construction, rehiring people to come back and demo work that's already been done and redo it is a nightmare of cost and schedule. And once you start making changes during the construction process, that leads to other unforeseen conditions, and it leads to other changes. The time to understand what you really want to achieve is before construction. You want to explore options, you want to define, you want to refine on paper. I don't like to waste things, but if I waste a piece of paper and it saves a stack of lumber, I'm going to call it good. So step 2 is design. For me, this is a synthesis time. I've loaded all this information in my head. All these ambitions and requirements are kind of scattered around like pieces of a puzzle. As time passes, patterns emerge. This work is conscious and it's subconscious. Never underestimate your subconscious. Never underestimate the time, because I think your brain is kind of working things out even when you're not aware of it. I start to establish hierarchy. Some things are more important than other things. And I start to put parts together. I look for relationships that are strong. A relationship that can fulfill a number of ambitions and requirements is strong. A relationship that fulfills only one requirement is not very strong. And it will probably be cut. I use quick, simple tools like sketching, diagramming, simple modeling. This process is not magic, and it's a little bit of magic. You're finding out what your building wants to be. It's important to have history as you move through this process. Say I have sketched something 8 times, and I have all 8 of those sketches. After getting a little perspective, like a good night's sleep, I can look at those sketches. And let's say each sketch, 1 through 7, is an improvement on the one before. But sketch number 8 is equal to or not as good as sketch number 7. For me, this is an indication that I've found a good solution in sketch number 7. It's funny. It always seems to be number 7 for me. But being obsessive, I've gotten lost in this before, and it ends up being 777. It may seem like sketching number 8 was a waste of time because you're not going to use it. But sketching number 8 is critical because you have no other way of knowing that number 7 is a good option. In race car driving, you don't know where the limit is. You don't know where the edge is until you slide off the track. So you have to do that. At least that's what I told myself as I sat in the infield in a cloud of dust. I think design time should be fluid and playful. You're intentionally ignoring some things, some requirements, some ambitions to just deal with the ones that you can deal with. You don't put a 1,000-piece puzzle together all at once. You find a few pieces that fit, and then a few more, and so on. So step number 3 is to refine. In this step, you refine the things you have defined in step number 1. So let's say we're moving forward with sketch 7. We ignored a number of things during the design step, and now we have to resolve them. If we've chosen a good path, the resolution will come together and it will make the end product better. If we have not chosen well, resolution will be difficult and it will reduce the quality of the design. In that case, we may have to choose a different path. We may have to go back to step 2 or even step 1. But if we've chosen a good path, resolution will be fun. The pieces of the puzzle will fall into place and excitement will build. In defining, I use more precise tools than I do in design. I use CAD and measured drawings and precise models, both physical and digital. So step 4 is repeat. Design is not a linear process, at least it's not for me. But the only way I know to communicate the process is step by step. But saying do 1, do 2, do 3, do 4 is grossly oversimplified. If I mapped the process of something I've designed, it would be a little bit of 1 and a little bit of 2, then back to 1, then 3. You know, it's cyclical and it builds. So step 4 is the acknowledgement that design is messy. It's different every time because every time is a different place and a different person. It's okay to be investigating and sit down and sketch, knowing that all the ambitions and all the requirements are unknown. You may find some of these ambitions and requirements as you sketch a building form. You can sketch real things and you can sketch diagrams of ideas. One of the most wonderful things about a rich design process is you don't really know what the end result is going to be when you start. This process is different than selecting 1 or more images of someone else's woodshop and then imitating them. Even if you reconfigure those images into your own collage, your new thing is still based on things that were designed at other times by other people for other purposes. The design I crave is not bound by historical precedent. In fact, a simple definition of modern architecture is the freedom from historical precedent. But now I'm going to sort of contradict myself. Learning from what others have done before you is critical. But why they did those things is more important than the image of those things. I believe learning from, without blindly imitating, is one of the most difficult skills a designer must learn. But I've fallen down another rabbit hole, and this discussion has become abstract. Do the work is the simplest advice I can give you to help you achieve your dream woodshop. I hope this was helpful. If so, please like and subscribe. Cheers.